This is Troy Dobbin, a young striker who just made the worst decision of his career. He wants to win the Champions League and maybe even a Ballon d'Or. So why on earth has he made me his agent? Because I'm not making any decisions on his career. I'm spinning this wheel every single season to find out where he goes. The wheel could send him to a title contender, but it could also send him to a relegation battle in Bulgaria. One spin could make him a legend, or it could ruin his entire career. We start life at Troy's real-life club, Gulf Kamara in Papua New Guinea. They defied the odds last season in real life by finishing second in the table, representing one of the least populated regions of the country. I'm actually wearing their jersey right now, but more on that later on. I've set his potential ability to be as good as Harry Kane. To get there, he needs to play a lot of football at a good level. But if the wheel sends him to the Premier League before he's ready to play there, he's just going to sit in the reserves and not develop for a season. Luckily, right now, Papua New Guinea is his level. He plays in every match and scores 9 goals across the season. At 17 years old, this is crucial for his development. The more he plays now, the more he's going to be better in 10 years' time. Despite his goals though, Gulf Kamara only finished 5th in the table. However, his superb form earned him a call-up to the Papua New Guinea national team, where he scored on his debut. So overall, he's not won a trophy, but it's been a really successful personal season for him. But this is where it gets dangerous. The wheel has the chance to ruin our early progress, but if we hit a good team, it could be the making of Troy, who is going to the Northern Irish Premiership, and the team who just finished in 6th place, Coleraine FC. Honestly, that might actually be the perfect start and move for him, because I think actually he should be good enough to be starting in the Northern Irish Premier League. Maybe this wheel isn't that bad after all. Of course, Troy is going to cost a fee. In this video, we're going to take the midpoint of his valuation for all of his transfers. So in this instance, it's £20,000. And that is a lot of money for a club like Gulf Kamara, who struggle to generate income to develop the club and help their community. But this is where we can help. I've been sent their jersey by Sangalo, who partner with unique clubs from around the world to design, manufacture, and sell their kits to a worldwide market. So the deal is, us kit collectors get some really cool and unique kits, whereas the clubs get extra revenue to help develop their clubs and help the community. The home jersey I have features this menacing looking crocodile, otherwise known in the local language as Kamara. There's even a crocodile icon on the back of the neck to tie it all together. I've had a lot of jerseys from Sangalo now, but I think this one might just be my favourite. Better still, for the rest of June, Sangalo have their summer sale, where the more you buy, the bigger the discount you get. So head to Sangalo's website by scanning the QR code on screen or clicking the link in the description to discover all the teams they support and find your new favourite jersey to add to your collection. As it turns out, the wheel struck gold. Troy Dobbin was the perfect fit for Coleraine. In the regular season, he started 23 of the 33 matches and scored 12 goals. So not only is he getting the all-important game time he needs to develop as a player, he's performing really well, which is only aiding his development. His finishing, composure, acceleration and pace have all increased by 1 since the start of the season, and his current ability has risen from 75 to 88, making him a decent National League player in England. His goals have helped Coleraine to 4th in the table, with games still to play. After all the teams play each other 3 times, the league splits in 2, with the top 6 playing against each other fighting for the title and Europe, and the bottom 6 trying to avoid relegation. However, Troy could only contribute 1 more goal at this stage as Coleraine slip up and move down 1 position to 5th place, missing out on European football. Which is okay, because he wouldn't actually be there next season to play in Europe if they had qualified. Instead, the wheel is spinning and it's sending him to the Serbian Super League and the team who finished in 9th place. So he's joining Radnički Sremska Mitrovica, who finished with more points than the team in 8th place, because like in Northern Ireland, the Serbian League splits in 2 after the regular season. The Serbian Super League is undoubtedly a higher level and with tougher opposition, and maybe it's come a little bit too soon for our boy Troy, because I think he's a bit out of his depth when it comes to his current ability. After the final few games, Troy now has a current ability of 92, which makes him one of the lowest rated players at Radnički. So the question is, can Troy adapt and overcome the fate of the wheel? Interestingly, Troy's value has decreased in Northern Ireland, so Radnički can pick him up for just £12,000. But the money isn't going to Coleraine. This video isn't just about Troy and his legacy, it's the legacy of the club that started it all for him. Every fee that Troy moves for goes directly to Gulf Kamara in their quest to become a continental giant in Oceania. At the end of the video, we're going to find out who wins more trophies, Troy on his adventures around the world, or Gulf Kamara thanks to his transfer income. But back in Serbia, things haven't quite gone to plan, because Radnički have signed Yaya Sanogo in the off-season, who is the better player overall when you compare the two of them, and as a result, Yaya is starting and scoring goals, keeping Troy out of the team. By Christmas, he hasn't played a single second in the league. This could stall Troy's career massively. He's still very young, and game time is so crucial to his development. If he doesn't develop at all this season, it could really stop him from winning trophies down the line. However, late in the season, Radnički are drawing 0-0 with Napredak, and as a last roll of the dice, the manager gives Dobbin his debut in the 80th minute as a substitute. And in the 89th minute, Troy shows the fans what they've been missing out on, beating the defenders to the ball and scoring on his debut to win the game. Thanks to this, Troy earned a few starts towards the end of the season, but he couldn't score again. So although Troy has improved a little this season from training well, his finishing and pace have both increased, his current ability has only risen by 7 to 99, so he's only really the equivalent of a squad player at a League 2 club. And now he's at 20 years old, we really needed him to be better than this at this stage. So I am praying that the wheel is going to give us a league where he can play regular football. Oh my word, I thought we were going to get the National League there. We're going to La Liga instead with whoever came 11th this past season. Oh, it's Sevilla as well. I mean, that is a dream move for someone who's actually ready to play La Liga football at Sevilla. Troy clearly isn't ready for that just yet, but I reckon they're actually going to play him in their B team instead, and that could be very good for his development if he plays frequently and scores lots of goals. The move also means £600,000 is going to Gulf Kamara, which is life-changing money for the club and their ambitions to win big. My prediction was spot on. Troy became a first-team regular for Sevilla's B team. On paper, this looks like a win, because he scored 17 goals in 20 games, which carried the team to second in the table and earned them promotion through the playoffs. There is a problem though. Quite a big one. Sevilla B play in Spain's 4th division, and that's so far below Troy's level, it's actually slowing him down. Sure, he's scoring plenty of goals, but to develop, he has to play against real opposition, and he's not doing that right now. As a result, his current ability has only risen by 7 to 106, which is maybe good enough to come off the bench in League 1. It's such a shame he won't be able to play in Spain again, because it does appear to suit his game. But next season, he's heading to the Scottish Premiership and the team who won the title. So Troy is moving to Celtic, which is great because he's likely going to win his first piece of silverware there. The downside is, he's probably good enough to start for any team in that division other than Celtic and Rangers. So unless he manages to force his way into the team, it could be a season on the sidelines and no development for our star. The move will also net Gulf Kamara a cool 4.8 million. Which might be the small fortune they need. So far, they've not been able to challenge for the title, which has been dominated by Hikari United, but this money could change everything for the club. Season 5 really was a disaster. Troy played just twice for Celtic all season. He played more games for Papua New Guinea in the Pacific Games, where they finished rock bottom of their group. The only other games he played were a few friendlies for Celtic B. So this season might have ruined him, especially because the only trophy Celtic won was the league, but he never actually played in the league for Celtic, so he can't claim that trophy. Thankfully, he trained well at Celtic's amazing facilities, so some key attributes have improved, like finishing and off the ball, which means his current ability is now up to 112. But it's been a disastrous 2 seasons thanks to the wheel. If it had just sent him to a more appropriate club and he played frequently and scored lots of goals, he'd be so much better right now. So hopefully the wheel does him a solid this time around, and we're sending him to South Korea. and the team who are currently in 5th place. At the moment, that is FC Seoul, and they're only halfway through their season. 90% of the leagues that we've got available to us in this video follow a winter calendar. It's leagues like South Korea or the MLS that follow a summer calendar. So when he does end up playing in leagues that play through summer, he's going to play the second half of one season and the first half of the next season. But this could be a quick way to a trophy, because he's coming into the team as the 3rd best player, and he could have a huge impact on their title run, building his own redemption arc and turning his fortunes around. So the wheel has done us a solid here, and Troy cannot afford to miss this opportunity. There's also good news for Gulf Kamara, who are going to get a cool £15 million added to their bank account from this sale, which is insane. With last season's 4.8 million, they had their best finish ever with 2nd place. But the top 4 go into a playoff to decide the champion, which they went on to win. So after 5 seasons, someone has finally won a trophy, and we can get the count going. Troy 0, Gulf Kamara 1. It turns out, Troy was built for South Korean football. He didn't just hit the ground running, he caused a magnitude 10 earthquake. In 19 games, he scored a whopping 21 goals, playing his best football yet and finally developing into the star that we know he can be. He transformed not only FC Seoul, but also himself. By the end of his first 6 months, he's helped Seoul win the title, collecting his first piece of silverware, and most impressively, winning the Golden Boot, playing just half the season. The following 6 months, he isn't quite as prolific, but he's still averaging a goal every other game. This has had a dramatic impact on his attributes, with key upgrades in dribbling, first touch, composure and jumping reach, which has skyrocketed his current ability to be good enough to start in most leagues outside of Europe's top 5. South Korea has saved Troy. I was starting to worry that we would never see him develop, but now it's all about how far he can go. And if we can get a good spin on the wheel, the good times may continue, as we're heading to Turkey and the team who finished in 9th place. He'll be joining Sivasspor for a fee of £2 million. A quick glance at their very small squad suggests he'll be one of the best players based on current ability, which might also suggest that the team are going to struggle next season. I'm not entirely sure how good this move actually is. The transfer fee will help Gulf Kamara continue their newfound dominance, making the trophy battle 2-1 in their favour. But they're going to need some more investment if they want to make it past the group stage of the OFC Champions League. It's another good season for Troy on a personal level. He started 31 games, scoring 13 goals, and improved as a player. The downside is, there's no trophy. Instead, Troy will be remembered for his goals saving the team from relegation as they avoid the drop by 2 points. The man who saved Sivasspor. Quite a nice legacy to have, but not the one that Troy wants. He wants to be known for winning trophies. He's not much closer on the international stage either. He might be the best player in Oceania as he scores a hat-trick against Fiji, but Papua New Guinea still went on to lose that match 5-3. Despite that, his performances in Turkey are going to net Gulf Kamara £9.7 million in the transfer fee, which they need after slipping to 3rd this past season. But Troy's only improved his attributes slightly, like his pace up to 16. Now he's 24 years old, it's likely we'll only see big improvements in his mental attributes. So he's likely not going to get much better than the 133 current ability he's at right now. That is still good enough to start in most leagues though, and the wheel is sending us to Mexico. Surely he's good enough to start for the team who finished in 7th place. That ends up being Puebla FC, who have previously won 2 titles, which sounds promising until you see the team. Troy is going to be by far the best player in this squad. His back is going to be in serious pain after carrying all this dead weight. Mexico's season is split into 2 phases, known as the opening phase and the closing phase. So this means there are 2 chances to win a trophy. However, Puebla aren't going to win anything in the opening phase, as Troy only scored 3 goals. The team overall just were pretty rubbish, and they end up finishing 14th in the table. But maybe they could turn it all around in the closing phase. Because on paper, Troy is one of the best players in the league, he just has to show it. And in the closing phase, he scored 12 goals in 15 games, demonstrating his killer instinct. Having the league's 3rd top goal scorer looks really good, but in reality, it was only because because he was the only player on the team scoring goals. Puebla only finished 11th in the closing phase and are nowhere near a trophy. Troy has made the best of a bad situation though, as his finishing and composure have both increased to 16, and when you couple that with his 16 pace, it means he'll be lethal for most teams in the world. We just need the wheel to give us the right team where he can demonstrate his prowess and win some trophies. Can he do it in Ligue 1? With the team who finished in second place? I was really hoping PSG had an off-season and came second. Instead, he's going to be joining Nice, who, as it turns out, have a stacked team. Troy's current ability has increased to 140, but he's still one of the lowest rated players in the squad. But if he can feature in some games, it might be a chance to catch up in trophy wins, as Gulf Kamara have a terrible season and drop to 5th place, keeping the score still at 2-1. Nice finished in second place in Ligue 1, obviously miles behind the champions PSG. They also made it to the Champions League round of 16, which is pretty impressive. The issue is, Troy has had barely anything to do with their success. He featured in 15 games across the season and had very little impact. The negativity creeped into his performances for the national team, as he didn't even score a single goal during the Pacific Games. And the huge transfer fees aren't even helping out Gulf Kamara at the moment, who miss out on the title again. So all in all, a pretty disastrous season. After 3 great seasons of looking unstoppable, Nice have made Troy look ordinary. As a result, his current ability has only risen by 1. At 26 years old, the plateau is real. This should have been the peak of his career. Instead, he's a bench warmer for Nice. I don't think that Ballon d'Or dream is going to come true anytime soon. But he could still have a very successful career winning trophies if the wheel is kind. And he's going to the Austrian Bundesliga and the reigning champions. Sturm Graz have just beaten Red Bull Salzburg to the title by 8 points. He joins as the 3rd best player in the team, so it's likely he's going to have a real impact in an intense title fight. Troy was an instant success in Austria. He scored 4 goals in his first 6 games as Sturm Graz went unbeaten. The issue was, their title rivals were also unbeaten and managed to beat Sturm Graz not once, but twice in the regular season. Still, Troy continued to be the club's top goalscorer, and thanks to him, Sturm Graz remained in the title fight. At the end of the regular season, they're 6 points behind Red Bull Salzburg. But this is where the league splits in 2, and all the sides in the championship group have their points total halved, reducing the deficit to just 3. So now Sturm Graz have a chance to get revenge, and they do it by beating Red Bull Salzburg 4-1, with Troy on the score sheet to draw level on points. And despite a poor performance from Troy himself, Sturm Graz win 1-0 in the second match against Red Bull Salzburg to move ahead of them in the table, and eventually lift the Austrian Bundesliga for Troy's 2nd trophy. He also claimed his 3rd trophy as Sturm Graz won the cup 3-2 in extra time over WSG Tyrol. Troy didn't score in the final, but he did score plenty of goals leading up to the final and made sure they got there. Without Troy, there is no chance that Sturm Graz would have done the double this season. He's also done a phenomenal job as improving as a player, with his composure now up to 17, and along with some other mental improvements, his current ability is now 146. And he also takes the lead in the trophy battle as Gulf Kamara finished 4th this season. I promise you, they are actually investing quite heavily into their facilities. It's just going to take quite a long time to see the results of those investments. After such a good season, it's going to be such a shame to leave Austria, but the wheel is sending us to Brazil, and the team currently in 8th place. That could be super interesting. Anyone can win in Brazil, and Fluminense, who are currently in 8th place as Brazil are in the early stages of its season that plays through summer, could easily come back and challenge for the title. So in comes Troy to win something with Fluminense. As expected, he started up front and was prolific, scoring 19 goals in 23 games. But they didn't add numbers to their small squad, which means they couldn't rotate. Teams with bigger squads dominated, and Fluminense only finished 7th in the table. But there is still a trophy for Troy to win. After the national championships is won, teams play in their state championships, and once again, Troy was cooking, scoring 4 goals in 8 games, putting Fluminense in the top 4, who enter the playoffs to crown the champion. In the semi-finals, they played Flamengo, winning the first leg 2-1 and the second leg 1-0. Troy couldn't find the net in either of those games though, and he couldn't score in the final against Vasco da Gama. Fortunately, his teammates could, as Fluminense win 2-1 on aggregate and Troy collects his 4th trophy, edging him further ahead of Gulf Kamara, who missed out on the top 4 this season. But now at 27, despite an incredible 12 months, there is no change in his current ability. This is Troy set for the rest of his career. The wheel has limited his growth, and as his agent, perhaps that was a bad call for me to make. At least it's been a fun journey though, which will only continue because the wheel is sending Troy to the National League. Oh no, oh no, a relegation candidate. We're in 2034 and Scunthorpe United are still a non-league team, but maybe Troy is the man to save them from oblivion. It might not be the trophy he wants, but it might be the most impressive trophy of his career. If he can take Scunthorpe from 19th to champions, that is some achievement. Troy was going to make the most of a bad situation and do his best for his new side. Obviously, whenever he was fit, he started games, and more often than not, he scored. The issue is, the rest of the team aren't quite there yet. And despite his 24 goals in 22 appearances, Scunthorpe are only 7th at Christmas, 12 points away off the top of the table. So Troy turned on the style in the second half of the season and genuinely did put the team on his back. His work rate, teamwork and determination were going through the roof as he did everything he could to get Scunthorpe promoted. By the end of the season, he has a National League record of 52 league goals in 45 appearances. But that still wasn't enough to drag his teammates to the top spot, and they'll have to go through the playoffs instead, which was a game too far, even for Troy. Accrington Stanley beat the Iron 2-0 and ends their promotion bid. Perhaps their only chance of promotion, as there's no way they're going to be able to replace Troy next season. Incredibly though, his current ability has risen slightly to 147, and he's managed to improve his passing, bravery and teamwork by 1 this season. Even at 29 years old, players can improve marginally if they have record-breaking seasons. It's also a record-breaking season for Gulf Kamara, for the wrong reasons. They've just finished with their lowest points total of the entire video. So they better put the £4 million he's about to move for to good use, as he's headed to the Premier League and the team who finished in 2nd place. Oh, that is Man City. So he probably won't start too many games for them, but he should be able to win at least 1 trophy at the club. Manchester City did go on to win the Premier League. They also did the double by winning the FA Cup. But there is a teeny tiny problem this season. Because Man City are so star-studded, Troy found himself way down the pecking order. So far down the pecking order, they sold him in January to Shabab Al Ali after not making a single appearance for the club. So we can't add those 2 wins to his trophy haul, sadly. I don't even have the UAE League loaded up, so I can't see how well the team did or if they actually won anything. So this is a completely wasted season. It was also horrendous for Gulf Kamara, who finished rock bottom of the table. But it does seem poetic that both Troy and his home team have hit rock bottom at the same time. Internationally though, for the first time in this video, Papua New Guinea progressed through their group in the OFC Nations League. Sadly, they did lose in the next phase, but Troy scored goals and he's elevated the national team to new heights, which is something to cheer about in a bleak season. So we need to turn Troy's fortunes around with the wheel, and it's sending him to Poland, and the team who finished in 5th place, Śląsk Wrocław, or if you maybe say it properly,
Śląsk Wrocław.
Personally, I don't see that myself. He joins the club as their best player, and after a terrible season, there is pressure for him to drag this team to glory. Troy was leading the team by example, as he quickly announced himself as the league's top goal scorer. Now at 31 years old, he has all the experience to be able to get past defenders and make goalkeepers pay for their mistakes. The issue is, over a 34-game season, the squad just aren't as good as the league's big hitters like Lech Poznan or Legia Warsaw. So Troy's goals aren't quite good enough to win the league title, but they are good enough for Śląsk Wrocław's highest finish in 16 years. But his 32 league goals were good enough for a huge accolade. lead. He's won the European Golden Shoe, essentially an award given to the most lethal striker in Europe, but he has scored more than those 32 goals. In fact, he's scored 8 more times in 6 cup matches, including a brace in the final to win Slash Rocklaw their first cup since 1987, adding another trophy to his haul. And seeing as Gulf Kamara just missed out on the title this season, he now takes a 5-2 lead in that battle. So perhaps Troy hasn't quite hit the height that he was expecting to as a youngster, and maybe that's my fault spinning a wheel rather than sending him to clubs that could actually develop him, but I think this might have just been his best season yet. I hope the wheel can keep this momentum going as he's heading to the Eredivisie and the team who finished in 5th place, FC Utrecht. This actually feels like a very similar challenge to what he's just done in Poland, although this time the squad is more his level, so he might have to work a bit harder to get the same results. Season 15 didn't quite go to plan though. For all of Troy's career, he has stayed pretty injury-free, only picking up minor things that kept him out for a few weeks. But after a solid start to the season, scoring 11 goals by Christmas, he then missed virtually all of the second half of the season, as he was out for 3 months with a torn hamstring, and then not long after that, was sidelined for another month with pulled knee ligaments. As a result, he only played 22 games, and Utrecht could only finish in 7th. Now at 32 years old, he's also starting to decline as his pace and acceleration have dropped. At this point, we're going to get diminishing returns for Troy as he heads into his 30s. So, I have one last idea for glory. Gulf Kamara have had another poor season. Despite picking up tens of millions in transfer fees for Troy, they've somehow only won 2 league titles and never got close to winning the OFC Champions League, which they should have been able to do because Hikari United have done it 4 times and Ley City Dwellers have done it once. So perhaps Gulf Kamara are missing a homegrown hero. I think it's time to send Troy home. At 147 current ability, Troy is obviously the best player in the league and was running riot up front, scoring goals left, right and centre. He scored 24 goals in 14 games, which you would be forgiven for thinking would be enough to comfortably top the table. But you'd be wrong. Hikari United earned 2 more points to go top. But the title is still up for grabs as the top 4 sides enter the playoff to decide the ultimate winner. In the semi-final, Gulf Kamara took the lead over Ley City Dwellers, but the opposition quickly fought back and pulled back a goal. Of course though, the hero of the game was our boy Dobbin, whose 75th minute goal won Gulf Kamara the match and send them to the final. Now all they need to do is beat Hikari United, and it started off well as Gulf Kamara scored first. But the lead wouldn't last long when Hikari drew level 10 minutes later, took the lead another 10 minutes after that, and then made it 3-1 just before half-time. For most teams, this would be game over, but not for a side led by Troy Dobbin. 3 minutes into the second half, they pulled one back, and then in the 88th minute, the man himself arrived perfectly in the penalty area to take the game to extra time. And this is where he used all his experience. Knowing he wouldn't win a header against 4 opponents, he let them push him to the ground and earned himself a penalty, which he went on to score, winning Gulf Kamara the league title. Sometimes all you need is a homegrown hero to win a trophy, but can he make it 2 trophies in 1 season? Because Gulf Kamara now enter the OFC Champions League, and in the group stage, they beat Vapuna from Samoa, AS Magenta from New Caledonia, and Henderson's Eels from the Solomon Islands to top their group and advance to the knockouts. In Football Manager, the tournament is actually doubled in size than it is in real life. So Gulf Kamara might have to play their rivals Hikari United in the semi-finals. But first, Troy is up against Iraqor Golden Stars from Vanuatu. Luckily, he scores 3 times across both legs, helping his team to a 5-2 aggregate win. This did indeed set up a semi-final against Hikari United, but in the first leg, Gulf Kamara ran away with things, scoring 3 times without reply to put 1 foot in the OFC Champions League final. But in the second leg, Hikari scored first, making it 3-1. Then they scored early in the second half and completed their comeback 15 minutes later. A Gulf Kamara about to collapse at a crucial moment. Well, not if Troy has anything to do with it. Late on, Gulf Kamara were advancing down the near side of the pitch, and a cross was swung into the middle, and obviously Troy scored the goal to win the tie 4-3 and make the OFC Champions League final. All that stands between Troy's Gulf Kamara and glory is Solomon Warriors from the Solomon Islands, and it was the Warriors who took the lead 30 minutes in. A Gulf Kamara about to fall at the final hurdle. 10 minutes later, Gulf Kamara got back on level terms, which allowed Troy to take over the game. He scored his first goal in the 43rd minute to take the lead, before then extending his side's lead just before the halftime whistle. Then he cemented his name in folklore and legend by completing his hat-trick in the 55th minute. Gulf Kamara scored once more to win 5-1 on the night and claim the OFC Champions League. So after 16 long seasons playing in places like South Korea, Brazil, Northern Ireland and Scunthorpe, Troy's long career has come to an end. He's won league titles in South Korea, Austria, Brazil and Papua New Guinea, as well as cups in Austria and Poland, and of course, the OFC Champions League. So now actually, I think the title of this video is a little bit undeserving. Okay, maybe I'm not the most conventional football agent, but I think he's had a successful career, and it's been pretty fun. Big thanks to Sangalo for sending me Gulf Karoma's jersey. It's such a cool one, so go check it out, as well as all the other clubs they have on their website, linked in the description. Troy isn't my only client though. In fact, he's not even my only client in Oceania. I've got a client called Ornan Tamasise, who plays his trade in Samoa. Except this time, we really tried to maximise every single move he made to win as many trophies as possible at the highest level possible. Click the thumbnail on screen to find out how we got on, and if I can actually do a better job at managing a player than just spinning a wheel 16 times and hoping for the best.